Let's get more on the causes and costs of divorces with Emma Johnson. She's a financial journalist and founder of WealthySingleMommy.com. Emma, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I guess that name says it all, Wealthy Single Mommy. Well, speaking of wealthy, we're seeing that divorce rates tend to be higher in countries where the GDP per capita is particularly strong. 71% of marriages in Belgium end in divorce. And now we're seeing that as Chinese economy strengthens, so does the divorce rate. What is the conclusion you draw from that?
Well, as women have more money, as people have more money, they can simply afford to have more divorces because there's the cost of divorce, and then there's the cost of having two homes, two electricity bills, two sets of china. Everything costs more when there's two households. So we see that in this country, the divorce rates go up as unemployment rates go down.
Well, we certainly noticed that during the Great Recession in 2008, divorce rates were at an all-time low compared to the last 20 years. Now, we say get married for better or for worse, but it seems that the for worse part seems to keep couples together.
Absolutely true, because people simply can't afford to leave when one or both parties are unemployed and they're really having a hard time financially. There's just not enough money to support that divorce process, which can be very expensive, and again, to support those two households.
So it's a question of both the process and both what it's going to cost for the couple to live as separate entities now.
Absolutely, yes.
So we're seeing the global economy regaining its economic footing. Can we expect divorce rates to rise globally as well?
That's what I would expect. I mean, there's a direct correlation between, as you said, the GDP and the divorce rates in countries. So the wealthiest countries have the highest divorce rates, and that has not ever changed.
Well, one of the biggest expenses in a divorce is the legal fees. But now we're seeing the surge in online divorces, and some of these websites say, hey, you can get divorced for around $150. Talk to me about the online process.
Right. Well, in the United States, that is a big push in online marketing. Free divorce papers or $99. And it just seems too good to be true. You're miserable in your marriage, you want out, it's going to cost you $99. You're going to sign up right away. Well, there's a couple of things going on. One, it's not really $99 and it's not really free, because in almost every single state, you have to take that form and then go and file it in your local court. And that's an extra hundreds of dollars usually. So the other part of the equation is that any expert's going to tell you that's not usually the smartest idea. There is divorce is a very complicated thing, and it really makes sense to have an expert at least look over that form, even in the most amicable of situations.
But there does seem to be a surge in the demand for these online divorces.
Well, there's a surge in consumption of them, for sure, because it is easier. People may be thinking, oh my gosh, I just have to get out of this situation now, and with a couple clicks of the button and $100, I'm out of it. But I think if you talk to people who have done them, they often regret it, and they find themselves spending a lot more money to rectify situations that may have been avoided if they'd taken a couple extra steps and maybe paid somebody to at least review the document.
Well, I guess it depends on the duration of the marriage and how complicated the finances were. But you know what they say, Emily, why divorce is so expensive? Because they're worth it. That's the old joke. Now, in the US, it turns out that 2/3 of divorces have been initiated by women in the last 10 years. And that's according to a social science study at the University of Minnesota. What does that tell us?
Well, it tells us that women, when they have financial power, again, we see this, for example, in China, in Beijing, we see that there's 40% divorce rate, whereas the rest of the country is less than 3%. In that populated country, women have a lot more economic opportunities, they are earning a lot more money, and therefore they have a lot more options to leave situations that they're not happy in.
Well, one of the top reasons why women and men perhaps aren't happy in a relationship, in a marriage, and one of the top 3 reasons for divorce is financial issues. Incompatibility, number 1, infidelity, number 2, financial reasons coming in at a very strong number 3. What are the financial issues that typically lead to a divorce?
Well, differences in spending habits. One person's a saver, one person's a spender. That's a big one. Financial infidelity. One person maybe has secret credit card bills that they're racking up, or maybe they're squirreling away money because they're saving for a divorce. That's very common. And then when people are unemployed or unequally employed, maybe one person's earning a lot more and one person's a stay-at-home parent, that can cause a lot of conflict in a relationship.
Financial infidelity. So how can these financial issues that lead to divorce, if you're going to be honest about things, how can they be better addressed ahead of time?
During the marriage? Well, you have to pay attention. Nobody can afford just to ignore all of the finances. No one can say, oh, that's her job to run the bank accounts and run the investments. Everybody needs to have eyeballs on all of it. Everybody needs to be checking their credit scores and understanding exactly what their names and their social security numbers are on. Nobody can afford just to turn a blind eye. So that's one. The second is, the old advice is open communication. Everybody needs to be talking about these things all the time.
Look, divorce is big business. It's a huge business in the United States, other than the lawyers that we've discussed, and perhaps the marriage therapists, and the counselor thereafter. What other businesses tend to do well when the divorce rates are high?
Well, real estate, because people need to find a new home, often selling the marital home. And then the finance and the banking industry, there's great opportunities there. People are getting new banking and checking accounts for the first time. They're getting credit cards maybe to finance the divorce, and they're opening brokerage accounts that they may not have otherwise.
So divorce is good for business. All right. Thank you so much, Emma Johnson, financial journalist and founder of WealthySingleMommy.com.